When his faithful owner died, a horse named Hercules wouldn't let them take him to his grave. After they opened the coffin, they were terrified by what they saw. It was a spring morning on a farm in the countryside. The sun was rising and beginning to shine, the air was fresh, and nature seemed to be full of life. Joseph, a 73-year-old man, woke up early as usual and walked to the barn where Hercules was waiting anxiously for him. When the horse saw him, he immediately started neighing and tapping his feet on the ground as if he was saying, "Hello, my friend." The gentleman stroked his neck and said with a smile on his face, "Good morning, buddy. Shall we go for a walk around the farm?" Then he saddled the animal and mounted up. The two of them rode through the green fields surrounded by mountains and leafy trees. Joseph took a deep breath of the pure air of his farm and felt a deep peace fill his heart. While galloping, the farmer spotted a group of colorful butterflies flying in circles that he pointed at them and said, "Look, Hercules, how wonderful these little creatures are, having as much fun as we are. Let's show them who's boss." The horse nodded as if agreeing with Joseph and picked up the pace towards the butterflies, causing them to fly in every direction. The gentleman felt the wind on his face and the sense of freedom that only life in the countryside could provide. After a while, they returned to the farm where Joseph's wife, Yvonne, was waiting for them with fresh coffee and homemade bread. They sat on the porch and contemplated the mountainous landscape while savoring the delicious breakfast. "Beautiful day, isn't it, love?" Yvonne exclaimed. "Yes, it's very beautiful," replied the elderly man. It was a simple moment but full of meaning. Joseph felt grateful to be able to enjoy the beauty of life on that farm. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath once again, feeling that pure air entering his lungs. "Yeah, let me get to work," said the old man, getting up and mounting his faithful friend, Hercules. Joseph was a simple man but very hard-working. He had lived on that property for as long as he could remember. There, he raised horses, cows, pigs, and a few goats. He was known in the region as careful and attentive towards his animals, treating them all with great love and respect. The elderly man and his wife also grew some vegetables and fruits. They cultivated what they needed for their own subsistence and occasionally sold the extra to the neighbors. But one of the farmer's specialties was cheese production, which he made following his parents' recipe. He used the cow's milk to produce delicious and aromatic cottage cheese, aged cheese, and fresh cheese, which were much appreciated by the locals. Joseph was also known for his hospitality and friendliness. He always welcomed visitors to his farm with a smile on his face and a warm cup of coffee accompanied by fresh bread and cake. The old man's farm was a quiet and welcoming place with its dazzling vegetation. He took care of everything with great care and love, and his property was an example of how simple life in the countryside could be rewarding and fulfilling. He had 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. The youngest were still teenagers, aged 15, and liked to help their father on the farm whenever possible. They were twins. The boy's name was Daniel while the girl's name was Gabriella. They both lived with their parents on the property. The old man loved spending time with them and teaching them about animals, nature, and the rural traditions. He would take them on horseback rides around the farm, show them how to milk the cows, and look after the calves when they were born. Daniel and Gabriella also loved taking part in cheese production, and the old man was very happy to show them the secrets of this very important tradition in the region. Together, they prepared the milk, added the ferment, and shaped the cheese. The presence of his children made his life even happier and more enjoyable. They grew up in a healthy environment surrounded by nature and animals and learned to value the simplicity of country life. Joseph had a large and happy family. As well as the twins, he had 2 more grown-up children, Teresa and Gil, who had already left home. They came to visit the farm from time to time, bringing with them his grandchildren, joy, and good stories to share about the big city. Joseph's wife was also a constant presence on the property. She looked after the house, prepared meals, and helped her husband with whatever he needed. She was a strong and dedicated woman who greatly admired him for his hard work and passion for life. That family lived in harmony, completely happy, in an atmosphere of love and unity on the farm. However, no one could have imagined what the universe had in store for them. One day, Joseph was organizing the hay in the barn when he began to feel unwell. He felt a bit tired, and his body ached, which was unusual for him. Although he was 73 years old, the man was very healthy and strong, that he was muscular and very fit. Joseph thought it might just be a flu, something common at that time of year. But as the days went by, he realized that the illness was getting worse. He began to have difficulty breathing and was constantly tired, as well as having a high fever at night. The old man even tried to continue with his daily activities on the farm, but soon realized that he really needed to rest. Yvonne was very worried about his health, but she was always ready to help him when he needed it. She put him to bed, fed him soups and teas, and took great care of him. "Oh, my old man, you'll get better, love. It's probably just a little flu. Soon you'll be as strong as ever," said his wife, cheering him up. "You can't live without me, can you, wife?" joked the husband. Still weak, the twins were also concerned about their father's health and offered to help him with whatever he needed. The two of them took care of the chores while he was ill. Joseph was trying to recover, but the disease seemed to be relentless. The poor man spent most of the day lying down with a wet towel on his forehead, fighting the fever and the heavy breathing. "What's happening to me?" he wondered. However, the situation got even worse when the elderly man began to feel severe chest pains, and his cough became persistent. Yvonne, who didn't know what else to do, decided to call a doctor to examine him. After the doctor examined Joseph, he confirmed that he had a severe lung infection. He prescribed some medication and advised the man to remain at complete rest. The days went by, and he didn't show any significant improvement. His wife and children worried more and more about his health, fearing the worst. But everyone continued to care for their beloved father and husband with great affection and dedication. "Dad, don't worry," said the twins. "We're looking after the farm for you, okay? We're doing everything right." He was proud of them, but he fought bravely against the illness, trusting that he would soon recover and get back to doing things together with his children and wife. He still had many plans for the property and wanted to get back to work as soon as possible. But the infection seemed to have other plans for him. Meanwhile, the man's family kept a constant vigilance by his side, hoping for his recovery. They didn't know what the future held, but they were united and confident that together they would be able to overcome whatever obstacles life threw at them. However, one morning, unfortunately, Joseph didn't resist. It was a shock for Yvonne and the twins, who cried non-stop. "No, Daddy, no," cried the poor children. "Calm down, my children, everything's going to be fine," said their mother, trying to comfort them, but she was also devastated. Sadly, after days of struggle and intense care, he passed away and left a huge hole in his family's hearts. They told the other children, Teresa and Gil, who came running to see their father and couldn't accept the tragedy. They were all devastated by the loss of Joseph, a man they loved and respected deeply. No one understood how the old man, who had always been strong and healthy, could be taken so quickly by the disease. They hugged and cried together, seeking comfort in each other's presence, but his beloved friend, Hercules, Joseph's faithful horse, also felt a terrible pain in his chest when he left. He seemed to miss his owner just as much. The poor thing neighed and fussed when he noticed the old man's absence, as if he knew that something had changed on the farm. The next day, Joseph's property seemed even quieter and lonelier. Nature continued to bloom, the animals carried on with their daily activities, but everything seemed to have lost some of its joy. The only sound was the cars arriving for the funeral. Everyone remained quiet and still, as if their voices had gone with him. The grief and anguish on everyone's face were visible. Joseph's funeral took place in an open area of the farm, next to the barn, where there was a magnificent view of the mountains and the vegetation that he loved so much. The atmosphere was one of sadness and longing, but also of respect and gratitude for the man he had been. The setting was cozy and simple, with wooden chairs and fresh flowers scattered around. The whole family was there, including the old man's 4 children and his grandchildren, who had also come to say goodbye to their beloved grandfather. Friends and neighbors paid their respects to the man, bringing flowers, candles, and messages of support for the family. However, during the whole time, they were watching over Joseph's body. Hercules, the faithful horse, seemed restless and constantly neighing, as if he knew something was wrong. His imposing and elegant presence near Joseph's coffin seemed to be a symbol of the loyalty that animals had for their owners. The family chose to let the animal attend the wake, as they knew how important he was to the man. But despite all the commotion and sadness around him, Hercules seemed focused on his own grief. He neighed and circled him, seeming to be happy again. "Come here, buddy," the horse approached, and the old man hugged him. So the family decided to send all the guests home, as they needed to take the old man home to rest from all that fuss. It was only thanks to the intervention of Hercules, who refused to let Joseph's body be buried, that the man was not buried alive. The faithful horse had sensed something that people didn't. The same day, his wife and children called in several doctors who examined him after revealing his condition, and they were perplexed. Nobody understood what had happened, but let's explain. After a bunch of tests the poor old man had to take to find out why he came back from the dead, they discovered that Joseph had a rare condition called Lazarus syndrome, which makes a person look dead but is actually still alive. The condition is very rare, but there are a few registered cases worldwide. He had to spend a long time recovering from the infection, but soon he was back as strong as ever. His presence on the farm and in the lives of his family and friends was a real blessing. The story of his resurrection quickly spread throughout the region, becoming a legend about the power of life and the loyalty of animals. The farmer knew that he had lived through an unbelievable experience and that his life would never be the same again. However, they were grateful for the second chance they had received. Now he could enjoy his children, grandchildren, wife, farm, and especially the friendship of Hercules, his faithful horse, who was the great hero of his story.